Alright, welcome to Maya class number 4. Here, today we are going to be making a little Lowpoly potion. So first things first, as always, I'm going to create a new Maya scene. I'm going to create a new project for that scene. I'm going to name it Potion. And gonna save it in the same directory as before. I'm gonna quickly open up the documents, find it in Maya, projects, Potion, and open up the source images. Here we'll add our reference and create the free image plane for our reference. I'm gonna put in the reference image. It's a little small, so I'm gonna scale it up a bit and move it a little bit to the back. Check it from the front. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and adjust this potion, because this is the one that I'll be making. Try to adjust this potion to be in the center of one of these, let's just say, discrete lines. All right, so I think this is good. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's good. Just so I don't move my reference, I'm gonna lock it in a layer, double click there, and I can start making the potion. Along with the potion, we're gonna learn a couple of new options with the multicut. So we're gonna learn some other tools and some other ways that we can manipulate stuff, especially objects. Speaking of objects, we're gonna start with a cylinder this time. But as we can see, the cylinder, always starts with 20 sides. Now we don't always want to start with 20 sides. We want to change that. For example, for this potion, we want to start with 8. We can do that here in the channel box. Under inputs, we have poly cylinder 1, and we can click on it to open up this menu. I'm gonna lower this down so it gets easier. In this menu, we can change a lot of stuff, but the most important are these 3. The subdivision axis, the subdivision heights, and the subdivision caps. What are they? Subdivision caps, if I change this to a 12, for example, we can see it adds caps on the bottom and the top side of the cylinder. Gonna go back. If I add 10 here on subdivision height, we can see it adds loops here this way. The height, I'm gonna go back again because we don't need it, and this time we don't need 20 as well, we just need 8, because 8 is the lowest amount that we can go for a spherical shape. Everything below 8, it looks more square-ish than cylindrical or round when we look at it from this way. So I'm gonna move to my front view. As we noticed from the reference, we don't have other views, so we're just gonna use this one view. So I'm gonna get the cylinder and try and scale it up and down until where it is needed. Down is perfectly placed, and for up, I'm gonna select the vertices and move them. To see the reference easier, I'm gonna use the X-ray mode. So with all of these, to get the shape, it's best to add multicuts for all of these edges, and then just scale them for all 3 axes. I'm gonna add one here, and we can see that it starts here but ends here, so that means there's another one there. I'm gonna add it a little higher. There we go. Add one here, and these cannot be hit perfectly, but we can just do it loosely, and then we can adjust them correctly later on. Here, I need 2 here as well. Gonna need 2 here as well, because this one ends here, and there's gonna be another one here. This one, and this, I think, is the last one. Zoom out, we have a lot of loops that we're gonna adjust very soon. So when we're selecting multiple stuff, we mentioned that we're going to use the shift, but if we want to select like a whole loop for this, for example, these edges, I can just double click on it and it selects the whole edge loop. But for example, with vertices, I can't double click, it's gonna select all of the vertices. So what I can do is click on one vertex and then shift double click on the vertex next to it. That selects the whole loop of that for that vertex loop. However, if I only want to select like some of them, not all of them, I can just click on this vertex, for example, and I want to select this one and 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 this one. I don't have to click them like that. I can just click the lowest one, shift double click on the highest one, and it's going to select both of them and everything in between. So that's another way we can use selection to our advantage. For example, here, when I'm scaling, remember, use vertex just so that little pesky vertex in the middle can be selected as well. I can select these, but if I scale these and then select the ones above and scale them as well, we're gonna have more time adjusting to get them, to be straight, perfectly straight. And you can see on the right side it's not perfectly straight. So the best way is to just select them both and scale them both at the same time. We can do this. I'm gonna deselect these because I accidentally picked them up as well. Now, two ways to doing this. As we mentioned in the previous class, I can scale them by all three axes and then just lower the selection down with just the y-axis, or the other option is to change views, click on the square between the two axes needed to scale, and then with middle mouse button just gonna scale them up, and they're gonna be equal size. Let's move on to the ones above. Got this one here, got here, different types of selection here, just to make it easier for myself. Instead of double clicking, just click and drag. I think I can lower this a little bit, as well as expand this a little bit, scale this up as well. We can see the reference is not always perfect, but we can just pay attention to one of the sides. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical with the reference. It will be perfectly symmetrical because we're using all three axes to scale on. We can do the same for these. If you're wondering what I just did there, since I have these selected, I can just change views very quickly and then press F to focus there, and I can see the menu for the axis much easier. Okay. Scale these down. This is pretty good. I'm just gonna scale it down a little bit. Do the same for these. I usually click on one and shift double click on ones that are very close, because I feel like it's easier than just trying to select them without selecting the other ones. So I'm gonna do the same with these. And with these. Remember, since it's the last movement we did with that one, we can just middle mouse button it as well. All right, that is the base body for the potion. What we can do next is we can do these little wraps here. How can we do them? We can also do them with multicut. However, as I mentioned before, we can put multicut nearly everywhere we want, so we don't have to go something like this. We don't have to click on this vertex and then click here and then click here. What we can do is just click on this vertex and then click on this vertex, and it just creates a straight line. Right click to confirm the selection. Now, to be sure that I have clicked on the vertex and not like very close to it, because sometimes you can click like right here 99%, and when you're zoomed out you can't really tell. If you don't want to do that, the best way to do this is click on an edge and we can see the percentage. Like we said before, if I go to the most right, it automatically snaps to the vertex that's on that side. You cannot go any further. So I'm gonna click there, snap to that vertex, click here, snap to this vertex, and right click to confirm. Okay, let's quickly do that for the other side as well. I'm gonna click here and here, down here and up here. All right, and here we have the cuts. However, as we can notice, we have them on only one side. So what that means is when we do take them out, we're gonna have to mirror them back on the potion, just so it's more logical. The best way to do this without destroying the body of the potion is to just do what's called duplicating faces. So first things first, I'm gonna select all the faces. I'm gonna hold tab to do it. Much faster. We can just shift and click on each one. Next one, change to the perspective view so that I can be sure that I've selected all the faces that I need. And then I'm gonna shift right click when I have the faces selected and move to duplicate face. When I have duplicate face, I'm just gonna hit Q and go to object mode. When I do duplicate a face, I can see it creates a group in the outliner, and within that group we have one of the objects, which is the body of the potion, and the other object, which is the wrapping of the potion. And if I move the wrapping, we can see that it doesn't destroy the body of the potion, it duplicates the faces. Okay, I'm gonna do the same with the other one, but before that I don't need, I'm gonna control 1 to isolate it. I don't need these edges anymore, so I'm just gonna click, double click, click, shift, double click, and I'm gonna delete these faces. Now when deleting faces, there's two things. Remember, there's two ways to delete. One is with the button on the keyboard, but the problem with that is it keeps the vertices. So if I go back to vertex mode, we can see that it keeps the vertices where they were. It just deletes the edges in between, and we don't want that. What we want is to delete the vertices at the same time. We can do that with shift, right click, and delete edge. And that way we can see that it deletes the vertices as well as the edges. Okay, and right now I'm gonna go back to face mode and select the rest of the faces so that I can duplicate them as well for the second wrapping. We have a group within a group that has the body, the wrapping, and the other wrapping is returned from isolation here. Okay, gonna select the body, control 1, remove these edges by double clicking on them. Double clicking selects the whole loop, and the loop ends here, so it's not gonna select anything else. I'm gonna shift right click, delete. The body is clear, it doesn't have any other unneeded topology. And if we remove isolation, we can see the wrappings being right here. Okay, what can I do now? I can extrude them or I can mirror them. The two can come in any way you want. You can extrude and then mirror, or mirror and then extrude. I'm just gonna mirror both of them real quick. Select both of them and go to mirror. See the options, they're the basic ones, and we have only this little polygons and it looks like it's bugged. That's why, because the middle of where we are mirroring is in the middle of the world. We're gonna change from world to object. And right now we're mirroring, it's still buggy because we're mirroring in the x minus axis, sorry. What we want to move in the z minus. So I'm gonna change x to z and we can see that it is mirrored. Okay, but the buggy side is what happens when we mirror multiple objects. So I'm just gonna go back, showed you that part. I'm gonna mirror again, change to Z, and see that it mirrors nicely. Gonna isolate it, and there we go. I'm gonna mirror the other side as well. I'm gonna isolate it, shift right click, mirror in the Z axis, and it's all good. So I can see from the reference that this wrapping is above the other one. So I'm gonna extrude this one first. I'm gonna shift right click, extrude, and then go with the Z axis, or in this case we can go with the thickness, right? A little bit of thickness. See, it moves very fast. If we want to change that, we can just press on this little like pie chart here. As long as there's a lot more white, it's gonna keep on it is going to keep on moving faster and faster. Like it's gonna go crazy. It's gonna be harder to control. If we want easier control, we can just make the white smaller than the empty space, and it's much easier to do it this way. Okay, I think that looks a little better. I don't like this, however, so I'm just gonna keep on going back and isolate to see what the problem here. I'm gonna zoom in and see that this part is not very visible, so I'm just gonna multi-cut here to here, sorry, to here, and see if this is better. That is way better. I'm gonna do that for the other side as well. Because there's no edge, it is harder to see. Okay, for some reason it created this edge here instead of higher, it being higher. Right? I'm gonna put it here. See this side, it should be somewhere over here. And this vertex should move that way. I think that's good. Now change to face mode, extrude face, and extrude it outwards. We can do the same with the other one, with the other wrapping. Just gonna extrude it. Select the faces first and extrude face. The option for extruding outwards is thickness. I'm gonna do it like this, right? And we can see that it has two wrappings right there. Now, when doing this, when doing duplicates, we notice that we make duplicates of the faces below. It doesn't delete them. But what if I don't need? For example, I want to create a cap here, and I want to put this cap that I've already made into another object or another mesh, and I don't want to keep the faces below. So I'm going to go to face mode. From the front side view, I'm going to select the faces that I want, and instead of duplicating them here, I can do another option, which is shift right click as well. And right above duplicate, there's extract face. If I press on it, let it go on it, it again creates a group. The group contains the body and the cap. If I move the cap, see, it's not close, so I'm gonna change the pivot to center pivot. If I move this to the side, I can see that there are no faces below, so it doesn't duplicate them, it just extracts them, and it can create two different stuff. So let's do the same with this one here for a little bit of exercise. Let's say that this is another wrapping here, a small little black wrapping. I can select the faces. This time I'm gonna duplicate them because I don't want a hole here. And then to press it or to choose it, this way it's harder this way to just click on it because we have both of them at the same place. So what you can do is just select both of the meshes and just click with control on the one that you don't need to deselect it. These faces, I'm gonna go to face mode, select all of them, and I'm gonna extract them. And like I said, the blue or the Z-axis, it always goes outside, which is the same as the thickness. I'm gonna extract that a little bit. Okay, so that is it. That is our little potion. What I want to do next is I don't want this mess to be in the outliner, so I just want to clean it up. First things first, I'm gonna start with an edit, delete all by type history. It deletes some of the stuff, but not everything. Now, if I don't need these groups, which I don't, I just want these meshes to be separate, I can select the meshes and not with left mouse button, but with middle mouse button, I can move them wherever I want. If I press here, I let go here, it's gonna put them in a group. But if I let go above that, where it's just a line and not like a box, it's gonna put them outside of everything. Then I can just delete these groups that I don't need because they're just empty groups. Then I'm gonna name the everything in the outliner. For example, this is the body of the potion. I'm gonna write body. This right here is the, I'm gonna call it neck wrap, because it's like a wrapping like on the neck of the potion. This one is the cap. This is gonna be wrap _01. I'm gonna copy this, paste it here, and just change the 1 to a 2. That's the second wrapping. Okay, so now what's left is just to color it. To color it, I'm gonna click on both of these wrappings because they're the same color. I'm gonna get rid of the grid because it's a little confusing right now. I'm gonna right click, assign favorite material Lambert. I'm gonna change the color to the one in the reference. You can see it's a little darker, so I'm just gonna increase this and make it closer to the reference. Okay, I'm gonna change this wrapping now, give it another Lambert, and change the color again with the color picker, just like that. This color is, let's just say it's black. It's very dark. And this one is not going to be used multiple times, so I don't have to name it. The cap has 2 colors. These are just ones with shading, like this is the normal color, this is the lighter version, this is like the shadow version. So I'm just gonna add, like we did before, on the same object with multiple colors. We can select the faces, or in this case I'm just gonna deselect these and give it another Lambert. All right, I'm gonna add blend here, because why not? So we can make it a little shinier. Pick this color. It's a little too dark, so I'm just gonna brighten it up a little bit, just like that. And for the rest of the faces, I'm gonna use the other color as well. This one, I'm gonna add a Lambert. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Gonna increase the Lambert a little bit, change the color. I'm gonna use them here, so I might want to just rename the colors. Okay, we're gonna name this one brown. Not brown. Change the blend to a yellow. Gonna reuse them here as well, so I'm just gonna select the faces, click one, shift double click, and the same for these. I'm gonna add the yellow here from the existing material, add the brown on these, and on these. I'm gonna keep those black. The lower ones as well. And the rest of them inside are gonna be blue. So I can just select these. And a new, no shift. And a new blend here. Let's just use Fong and use the reference or the color picker. It's a little too dark. Call it blue and lighten it up a little bit. I did notice, however, when I isolated that these had no color. Quickly give them another brown. All right, and that is the end of this lesson. In a short little summary, we created this Lowpoly potion. We created a project, made a new scene that we are going to save right now. I'm gonna Control S, made a scene and save it, call it potion. We inserted the reference. Remember, we don't need multiple references if it's something like this that's perfectly, let's say, symmetrical. We find new ways to use the multi-cut, learn some new tools like the duplicate, the